And it's the hardest thing to do is just being yourself on stage, which you won't do it on the first go.
It must be hard for comedians in that sense. It's not like Led Zeppelin got on stage in front of 40,000 people and said, hey, we're going to work on this song.
It's like a gym. You've got to use it. You've got to use the audience and not care if it works. I mean, if a joke works first time, it's a miracle. So you've got to get up there and accept this is going to be the worst feeling ever. If you have the mental toughness to go through it, then you'll get off and you'll realize, all right, that bit didn't work. I shouldn't have said that word or that sentence. Then you refine it. Next thing you know, like now that joke works.
Well, welcome to Fruiting Body Podcast with your host, Brendan. Today we have an absolute island legend. He's been here for years and he's making his big return. It is Troy Kinne. This is the Australian comedian, the number one coming out of Australia. If you really want to learn more about him, we're going to leave links down below. But this whole podcast today is going to be understanding his life story and what keeps him coming back to Phuket. Don't forget to like and subscribe and buy our Lion's Mane. It's good for your brain health. As you can tell, I'm on fire. It's the Lion's Mane, not the coffee, trust me. Now we're just gonna jump right into this podcast, and before we got somewhere here, maybe the post-production will do that. We have timestamps, so as I'm rambling too much and you're like, fuck that guy, I want to skip past it, you can see different chapters about Troy's life and his experience there and be able to navigate this much more seamlessly. So without further ado, let's get this started with Troy Kinne.
Thanks for having me. That is what I put on my customs form when I enter Thailand. Island legend.
Island legend. That's
they
it.
know.
That's the occupation. Yeah.
This is great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for coming out. I know it's a far away from Chalong. As we discussed before, we're going to get into his life story and how he got into comedy in Australia and all that stuff. But first, let's just talk a little bit about your Thailand experience. What first brought you out here and what are you doing here now? Well,
I first came just on a holiday with a girlfriend at the time. She was American. So, yeah. If you listen to Klaus, you can probably hear her right now complaining about coffee being too cold somewhere or something. But when we came, we actually stayed next door to this studio at Surin Beach. And I fell in love with Thailand and Surin as an area. So my next two times, I'd always go to Patong for a little bit, then come to Surin. And I think why I love Thailand is it's sort of like me in a nutshell. The way I explain it to people, unpretentious. Like, I remember having a conversation with my brother who's unlike me in every way possible. And he was planning his wedding and said, can't believe how much it costs. It's like $1,700 for seat covers. And I said, well, don't get seat covers. He goes, no, you have to get seat covers. I'm like, oh, really? Like, we're very different people. So I always describe Thailand to someone who hasn't been here. I'm like, just picture eating the best food you've ever eaten at the best value for money, looking at the best view you've ever seen, sitting on the shittest chair you've ever sat on in your life. That's Thailand.
I mean, that's Surin Beach, all these little beach bars down there as well. You said, so you first came with your girlfriend. Now, this is Surin Bay Inn. Shout out to Surin Bay Inn. Terry and Mai, the owners over there. They've been around forever. And I'm telling you, I won't go deep. They kill it. During high season, they're raking it in. When was that? Do you know which year approximately?
2009, I think. So a while ago. And then this is where I start to feel like I wasted some time coming to Thailand because I had booked in another trip here with that same girlfriend. We broke up in the interim, and then I was doing comedy, putting some videos out, and long story short, got greenlit on a sketch comedy TV show in Australia. And when the writing block in pre-production was happening, was the same 2 or 3 weeks I was coming to Thailand. So I said to the producer, who's one of my best friends now, Marianne Carroll is her name, I said, maybe I'll cancel the Thailand trip so that I can stay and do the writing. She goes, but if you split up with your girlfriend, why don't you go by yourself and just do the writing there? I said, all right. So I went to Patong and I was staying at a hotel that had no Wi-Fi, and I got all the writing done in like a week because you just had no distractions.
There's definitely distractions.
In this certain hotel. If you left the hotel, there was a lot of distractions. But I was going like to just a gym there, and then I thought, oh, this is my thing. So when we then got another season of that show, I'd come to Thailand and I'd just like go to the gym, try and trim down for TV and write at the same time. And it wasn't until my third time did someone suggest going to, you should go to Tiger Muay Thai, because I'd done some Muay Thai with friends in Queensland before. And this was a big mistake. I had a driver, his name's Wee Wee, a Thai guy here who just became almost a family friend, him and his wife's son. They'd be my taxi. They'd take me wherever I wanted to go. And they took me to Tiger Muay Thai, and this is back when it was Fighter Street, not Fitness Street, that soy area. I went into Tiger Muay Thai, did a class, came out, got back in the van and went home. Didn't look around or anything. And then the next time I came, someone said that was staying on the street, oh, we should come to Tiger again and come and see where I'm staying. So then I walked up that soy street and just saw gyms and healthy food restaurants and just it's a phenomenal place. So then that became my...
This was your third trip back.
This is like my fourth trip, yeah. So I had come a few times to do fitness and writing, but not gone to the soy or Tiger Muay Thai. I was doing that in Patong. Yeah. So then when I realised the soy existed, that became a place I went. I go there every year now. And I think the most I've gone in 1 year is I've gone 3 times in 1 year, technically.
Yeah, I think I'd like to do a survey, like everyone that comes to Phuket, where did they first go? And I would probably say 90% are going to say Patong. I mean, I know myself as well.
Yeah.
And then once you start to figure out the island, you realize there's more to it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people that have that bad taste in their mouth, they say, well, Phuket sucks because of Patong. I'm like, can you tell the whole world that?
Yeah.
You don't want too many people coming.
Well, I feel a bit stupid myself because it wasn't until I came 2 years ago, straight after COVID, because every time, in my defense, I would come and I'd be writing for this TV show. So I'd sort of do a fitness class in the morning, write during the day, on the weekend, go to Naihan Beach or Carter or something. But that was as far as I'd really explored. Then when I came after COVID, I was writing for season 3 of the Kinne Tonight Show, which was another one that we started on a different channel. And in the middle of it, they basically postponed it and said it's not going to happen for another 6 months because of everything from COVID shifted. So then I decided, well, I'm just going to, have a normal holiday here and, do the fitness stuff, but not worry about work during the day. And in that time we, rented, long-tail boats and went out to Coral Bay. We went to 8 different beaches within 3 weeks.
Were you by yourself or with
No, with just people from the hotel and friends. And it was I feel so stupid that I didn't know these places existed before because I claimed, I know all of Phuket if you need any tips. Now I'm like, I can give you some now, but I didn't back then. But
you were just coming originally, when let's say you had the writer's block, you were coming for it was 1 week, 2 weeks at those times?
It'd be a month. I'd come for the maximum.
But a month goes fast here,
Definitely. Especially on that fitness street when that last week you're like, oh, I'm just starting to get somewhere. So it's sort of a joke when I come here now. My parents, my friends will say, when are you coming back? And I'll give the date. And then they'll also say, okay, and they'll add 2 weeks because I always extend because you're like, I'm just starting to get somewhere. I'll make the most of it. So I've been to the immigration a lot to extend my stay.
Yeah, it's hard. I've been here 8 years and
wow.
I haven't left the country. Well, I guess I had to go to Laos and do some work stuff, but I haven't left the country in 5 years. And I have to go home now. Let's say I didn't do the injection. Because that's why I didn't want to leave. There's thank you. Actually, bring that back. Anyways, but yeah, it's really hard to leave this place, and time just doesn't really exist in Thailand because there's not really seasons. So sometimes you forget what month it is half the time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. When people ask what's the best time to go, it's doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the rainy season can be the rainy season. You might get a bad week, but that's a gamble.
Yeah.
That's about it. Let's jump back in. We'll go more into your experience with the boys over at Tiger Muay Thai, and while you're going to be over here and you go pop in and say hi to Bang Tao MMA, people are probably still wondering who the fuck is this guy. Let's tell that story. You got into comedy now at a young age. I'm guessing, you're probably about 43, 44?
46.
46
I turned
now.
46 January 7th.
I was just being nice.
Well, it has got so I used to love when people would ask my age because when I was about 40, everyone go, really, you're 40? And I'd get ID'd and stuff. And then it wasn't long ago, I was with a friend and they asked for her ID. And then I handed mine over, and the lady said, "I didn't ask for yours." So I'm like, all right, those days are gone.
It's finished now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my days ended early. The gray hairs came at a young age, so they're just come on in. I think I was like 14 going into the bars. So when did you originally get into comedy in Australia? And I from like a comedian's let's say path. Usually it takes a long time. There's a big grind.
Yeah, it's a long apprenticeship. Yeah.
Were you always like? I guess the stories usually do start with the class comedian, and how did that evolve into a professional career?
Definitely the class clown type thing. And I love telling this sort of stuff to younger people because it blows their mind that a mate of mine in high school, we were sort of known as the class clowns or whatever, however you want to put it. And we would borrow the video camera from the school library and make little funny sketch type videos and then show like our parents and maybe our next door neighbours and the class if the teacher would let us. And it's like, that's probably like, 18 people. And we thought that was amazing. So then when YouTube comes along, I'm like, oh, so I can make this and show the world, like it's insane. So I'm sort of lucky that my comedy career has seen both sides. So when I first got into stand-up, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook or anything like that.
What age would have that been at?
I would have been like 25, and I was working as a landscape gardener, trades assistant essentially, labourer, and I'd work during the day, think of jokes in my head, and then at night go to like little open mics and do them. And I look back now and go, how did I have the energy to do that? Because you're literally there till midnight and you're getting up at 5 to go and landscape garden. So I did that, and eventually back then they had a lot of competitions for newcomer comedians, and I won one and then I won like a few of them, and that sort of gets you on the radar, I guess. And then I got a job like just as a part of the street team on a radio station, we're here at this shopping centre giving away icy cold cans of Coke, come and get one. And honestly, you will not find an easier job in the world. Like we would, and this is how confident I am in my career that I don't need to go back to this job, I'll tell you. Because if I did, there's no way they'd let me. We would like go to the shopping centre we're supposed to go to. We'd say, hey, we're at this shopping centre, come and get some free vouchers for this. And then we go and watch a movie. We'd sit in the movies, come out and they go, we had a couple of complaints they didn't see. Hey, we were there. I don't know where they thought where they were going. Like it was just like a job you could so easily get away with doing nothing. So the point when I realised I was like going okay with the stand-up comedy, like you do a few competitions and you just sort of meet people who say, oh, you should do this gig, but they're just like in a little restaurant or something. But then you'd get a paid gig my first paid gig was $50, doing 5 minutes before Dave Hughes, who's a big comedian in Australia, and I thought that was amazing. And then, you'd go, okay, so the same guy asked me to do it again for Jim Owen, another very famous comedian in Australia. And then I got some gigs just through word of mouth doing mining camps. So I had to get out of work for 3 weeks to do a tour of mining camps in Western Australia with like 4 other comedians. Then I did some gigs for the army troops in East Timor. And I got to the point where I'm getting out of work too much that it's annoying them. So I have to just give away this job and just do comedy. And when you do that, the first day is so weird because you get up in the morning and go, all right, what am I doing? So you like get a pen and write something funny and I'm like, all right, I guess that's me for the day. Now I just wait. Just like you couldn't like post anything. You're just waiting for the phone to ring, really. So you're just like, right. So then when YouTube comes along, that's when I started veering in a different direction. The first video I made was just with this guy Alex Williamson, who got pretty famous very quickly on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. He started making videos. Because when you see someone else who makes a video, and I hadn't made anything special, but he contacted me and we made a couple of things together. And then through him, I met this guy, Max Price, who's one of my best friends now. And all I knew was Max was a kid who had a camera. So I thought of a video that was going to be my first YouTube video by me and only me. And this was at the time, I don't know if you remember this craze, but it was when there was a lot of videos that were called like shit people in LA say, shit girls say, shit guys say, shit Italian people say, shit butchers say. It's all them. Yep. And I'm like, my thing is I always try and think what's another spin on that or what's an original version of that. That's always been why I will do something if it's a unique take on it. Happy to admit these days I am scraping the barrel in that department, but you got to try. So I thought, has anyone done shit no one says? It's never said. So I looked for it. No one's done it. And it was when the Olympics are on. So we did one called Shit Never Said while watching the London Olympics. Because I don't know what it's like in your city or hometown when the Olympics are on, especially when there's no Netflix then, everyone's just watching it. So we put this video out. And back then, I'll admit it was very easy to go viral because if you just did something that was in the public's conscious already.
What year would have that been?
I don't know. What year were the London Olympics? At least it's one we can look up.
Maybe that was 2012, no?
Possibly, yeah. Possibly because I know I did the TV show 2014, so that makes sense.
That's the lion's mane working, you see
that?
There
you go. It's so easy to plug it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we did that, and it ended up being shown on the Channel 10, the national network news, because they always look for something quirky to show at the end of the news. It was on that. It was in the newspaper, and so it just went pretty nuts. So then we said, all right, let's just keep doing this. So every day, and this is what I'd tell to after I got the TV show, when other comics or people coming up would ask me, how did you get the TV show and stuff? And I'm like, the trick is, and it's hard to do, especially these days, is you've got to make videos on that, but you've got to do it expecting nothing out of it. Mm-hmm. You've just got to do it because it's fun and you want to do it. That's the only way something will happen. It's hard to trick yourself into doing it. But at the time, we didn't think anything would go. We were just having a ball. So we made a couple more videos. We did a parody of this a Kia ad, the car company Kia, which was sponsored the tennis. So a lot of people were seeing this ad, and it was of the new age man walking down the street saying, I'm the new age guy. I do this, I do that. I drink this beer. I do. And we basically did the real new age guy, and it was me walking along just saying, stuff like, I check out my stomach and the reflection of windows. I wonder if my ex's new partner's dick is as big as mine. And if I met Matt Damon, I reckon we'd become mates. Just all stuff that guys would probably think but never say. Now, in my defense, when we made this video, I had just had a hernia operation a couple of months before. So I couldn't exercise. So I was carrying a bit of weight, nothing major. Mm. And that one went viral as well. But every headline was portly comedian does a take on whatever. Chubby comedian does and then one of them, there's four of them, one of them contacted me and said, do you mind if we post about your video and show this clip? And I said, yeah, that's fine, as long as you feel free to not mention my weight in any way, chubby or whatever. And then that one comes out, husky comedian. They just chose the word I didn't say as an example. Anyway, Marianne Carroll, who I mentioned, the lady who's a very good friend of mine now, she was a producer for Channel 7. That video, this was back when, and it still happens now, but videos just get sent around if they're funny. It gets sent to her. And she contacts my agency at the time, which was just, an agency where everyone gets on there. Yep. But she has a meeting with me. Now, years before that, I had done a pilot for a sketch show with Channel 7, which just was a bad experience. We didn't really get a say in what we were doing. It was just me and three of my best friends, but we were young comedians, and it was just trying to use young comedians to do what they wanted. So we didn't even really get a say in the writing or the editing. And for me, the editing, editing's my favorite thing. I edit the show myself and everything. The actual editing of the video editing. Yeah, oh, yeah. That's probably the thing I'm best at, weirdly. And so when I was told, this lady from Channel 7 wants to meet, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. I'm not going to do this. Go and meet her, and just the connection we had and what she was saying, I'm like, she actually knows what she's doing and believes in what I want to do and stuff. So we made a pilot, and the brief was, and it's weird now, to bring the internet feel to TV, which means, weirdly, not to overproduce it. So to make it look shit, but put it on TV. So, and I think that's still a thing. Like a lot of people like think, oh, the production value, you know, movies is okay, but if you want to make it, you know, you see people make a video now, if they're playing a female, they put a tea towel on their head and no one cares. Like as long as you're having a crack. So basically it was the first time that style had been put on television in Australia, at least, with a lot of like the things you never said.
But it's a sketch show at this point.
It's a sketch show, and it's a lot of, we called them one-liners, so it'd be things you never said at a bar at 3 a.m. and you just reel them off. And then there'd be, you know, there's a lot that went viral in that first season. There was, you might have seen.
But is this the Troy Kinne show at this point? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so they've kind of like...
This is Kinne, yeah.
Yeah, they've given you kind of the spotlight, but you're also working with the team as well.
Yeah, so that's why it was sort of, I was so knocked over at the meeting with Mary Ann, because she was basically, I think we, you know, just build it around you. You bring your mates in that you want. And so it was like, oh, you're just letting me sort of...
What year would have that been?
That was 2014.
So this
13 or 14.
This is really the beginning of building you as the brand as well.
Yeah.
And you're way ahead of the curve in terms of social media.
And I'm sort of lucky. I think it was Mary Ann, you know, when said, what's the name of the show? And we're coming up with all these crazy names. And I think she said, just call it Kinne. Call it your name. Yeah. And I'm so glad I did that, because to this day, the logo we used, I just put at the end of all my videos. And it's, it's these days it's a pretty obvious choice. But back then we didn't realise branding was a thing. And so it was a lot of videos I had already done on YouTube. We shot them again for the show. Yeah. But weirdly, it's like, well, you want the internet feel, so why don't we just use that one? It was just like, just to make it a little bit better. So one in the first episode was the parody of The Bachelor, when he made a girl close her eyes and made her guess what was in front of her face, and he's holding a rose. And we did that one where the girl says, yeah, I think I can guess what it is, and she goes to put her mouth on the rose. That one went nuts, and like 50 Cent has that on his Instagram.
I think I saw you post that the other day.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of recycle the content.
Well, that's the weird thing. Like I sort of feel bad about that I still will post an old video like that now and then, but I'm just getting new people that haven't seen it.
I think it's a good thing for Instagram, because the content dies anyways after a week.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so,
true.
mean, you can kind of recycle it all.
Yeah.
And then it pops up.
Well, I've definitely taken advantage of that.
That's your style. It's this relatable comedy. Did you look to, your heroes? Who were your comedic heroes? And the first who would come to mind on relatable comedy style would be like a Jerry Seinfeld.
Definitely, yeah. I was a massive fan of Seinfeld. So that was definitely, to this day, I always try and do stuff that's relatable. And I remember seeing a documentary on Ray Romano, and he said something that always stuck with me. Basically, because he was, he does the relatable thing as well. And it was like, basically when you say something, or it's said in your TV show or your sketch, you want the person in the audience to think to themselves, oh, I thought that only happened to me. And once you've got that, you've almost like, the laugh is sitting there waiting. Then you've got to make it funny and put a punchline on it. But if you've got that already, you get bonus points. The laugh comes easier. Yeah. So that was. But there was a guy. You would know Crocodile Dundee, yep. Paul Hogan. So my parents, mad Paul Hogan fans. So he had his own sketch show back when I was like, I guess 7 years old, 10 years old. And I just remember my mum and dad, every whatever night it was on, friends over to watch it. Like it was an event. So basically if you pick, the 1,000-odd famous people on YouTube and that at the moment, basically that was him and there was no one else. That's what it was like. So the whole country knew who he was and couldn't wait to see what he did next. And his stuff was so relatable. That's all he did. On the night I was supposed to hear about if the Kinne show was going ahead, the first ever one. My mum was in Melbourne. She doesn't live in Melbourne. She lives 3 hours away in a country town called Cellar, where I grew up. Messages me, my dad has gone offshore. He used to work offshore on the oil rigs. She's got 2 tickets to see Paul Hogan's live show. Do I want to come? I said, yeah, all right, I'll come. So I go. As I'm watching it, he's showing the old clips. And, I hadn't seen him for a while. I'm thinking, this is what my show needs to be, the updated version of this. Just relatable stuff, everyday things that people, relationships, all that sort of stuff. I come out of that show, look at my phone, got a text from Marianne, show's going ahead, we've been greenlit. So I'm like, all right, this is all happening. The universe is making it so. So that became, and still is, our little mantra. If it's relatable, we're into it. But it's trying to find, it's harder these days because there's now there's so many people on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, where as soon as something's relatable, someone could just do something about it that's not that funny. But it's like, well, now that topic's done and you did it in a shit way. Like, it's real. Like, I've always said, when people ask, what did you think when YouTube and all that came along, social media, you say the best thing about social media, videos and stuff, is anyone can do it. The worst part about it is anyone can do it because there's a lot of shit as well. But I think, and we sort of touched on this before, the cream will always rise to the top. Like, if you're doing something good enough, it'll get seen. There's no need to...
The best always wins.
I mean, Steve Martin's got a great quote. When lots of people used to ask him, how do I get an agent? How do I get noticed? How do I do this and that? And it's just, be so good that they can't ignore you. That's the same with videos. If you do something that reaches people in a way and the passion is shown through it, and it'll get seen and it'll get views.
It's the same applied. I think there must be some universal law behind that all at the end of the day, or it's pretty straightforward. The best technology will always succeed. I mean, where's BlackBerry?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They all come out, they try, and the best of the best is always going to be on top. On your style of comedy, and let's say even your writing process, when you're first getting started, I mean, you're coming from this blue-collared background and merging into comedy quite organically. As you're jumping into it as a professional, I mean, I'm assuming you don't have any, let's say, training or ways to, a writing process. Did that slowly develop over time? And can you walk us through, from the beginning of your writing process to where you are today professionally, how have you changed? And tell us a little bit behind the scenes how that works.
Yeah, definitely there's stages to it, especially when I first started stand-up, because coming from a country town, when I first came to Melbourne, you sort of feel like you don't belong. Like, it's a big city. There's all these. You go to a comedy club, so everyone's professionals. You feel like you're beneath everyone.
Everyone's so cool.
Yeah. So you start doing comedy, the stand-up, in the way you've seen it done before, trying to emulate someone else, and like I said, like now it's like, unless it's original, I'm sort of not really interested. But you don't know that at the time. And then I'd see Dave Hughes, who was my hero. Back then, that's why I was so excited when my first paid gig was opening for him. He basically shot to fame because he was just himself. He was like, talks in a real laconic way. He was on the dole, the welfare type thing. He talked about that. And he got shown on a gala clip when the Comedy Festival was on. And overnight, they moved his room from an 80-seater to 200 to 500. And then he just became like this megastar. And he basically gave good advice, which was like, be happy to be there for starters. Yeah. And I found that when the best thing at the time, it was a big deal to have a video of yourself watching it back. And I was just standing there like, no expression, just sort of reeling off, almost a script sort of thing. Once you start smiling and your personality comes out, then part of the key is pretend you're in a bar chatting on bar stools, or they're in your lounge room, just having a chat. And that's when it really changed for me, when I started doing that, like just as if I was talking to my mates and my brother or something. And like you could focus on one person and go, and rather than reciting a line, you're just chatting. And that's when you sort of find your voice, as they say. So that was the big breakthrough for me, I felt. And then when you realise, you'll do a joke in that style about something very simple, relatable, gets a big laugh, like, all right, what's another thing like that? So I think that's sort of the key is, and it's the hardest thing to do, is just being yourself on stage, which you won't do it on the first go. You've got to like just keep going. That's the other thing, just repetition.
Does Australia have those platforms like... I went to the Comedy Store. Oh my God, this would have been 2017, And when I was in LA, like people are partying. I literally went to the comedy. I was there for work just every night because I love it.
Yeah, wow.
I just went every night, just kept going.
In Sydney?
This is in LA.
Oh, right,
so
right.
My question is more like, do you have those platforms in, let's say, Melbourne or Sydney, where you're putting in those reps in the room that are preparing you for the bigger stage? You're kind of working with the content in there because, you got to figure out what am I going to say, on that big paid performance.
Yep. We do, but definitely not to the extent LA or New York does. Like when I've gone there, I'm so jealous. So we have a lot of rooms in Melbourne, and Melbourne is definitely the best city for comedy. And I'm not just saying it because I'm from there. Everyone in Australia sort of knows if you want to start out in comedy, go to Melbourne because there's a lot of rooms and open mics. And so definitely when you're working up a new hour because you want to tour it, you'll Comics Lounge, my favourite venue in Australia, that's pretty much the only one open every night, and they have a Tuesday night, which is new material night. So I always tell friends when the comedy festival's coming up, the Melbourne Comedy Festival in Australia is huge, but they'll say, what's the best show today? I'm like, go to the Comics Lounge on a Tuesday before the festival or during it, because all you see is the best comedians trying stuff for their show. And it's like, it's cheap to get in. It's like, and you'll see like sort of behind the curtain almost. But there's a mate of mine, Carl Chandler, who's a big Thailand guy as well. He runs some great rooms. He runs the Basement Comedy Club in Melbourne. And he does a podcast every year in Koh Samui where all their fans of the podcast come. It's like a big event. He has rooms that are probably the best ones to try out stuff. But it's like a Friday and a Saturday. And you go, the problem for me with a lot of the comedy shows in Australia are sort of events that are fundraising for someone like, there's a lot of brewery shows, like people that have got a brewery or a bar, they have a comedy show once a month and, the comedians get paid, they make some money, that's how it's done. So, this makes me sound a bit wanky, but these days, because I've been on TV, if I do one of those shows, they want me to headline because then if you've got a headliner that's been on TV, that little credit, it makes it look better. But I'm like, but I want to come there and try some jokes that might be shit. So and I'm just doing it to try out some stuff, but I got to wait till I'm last on. I get home at midnight, and so I'll have a little plan. I'll start off with some things that I know work. Then I'll do 10 minutes of shit. And then I'll finish with 10 minutes of stuff to win them back.
And they're kind of expecting, hey, you got to be knocking every joke out of the park.
Yeah, it's the hell of it. It's like you've got to it's like a gym. You've got to use it. You've got to use the audience and not care if it works. Because a joke, if a joke works first time, it's a miracle. So you've got to get up there and accept this is going to be the worst feeling ever. But if you have the mental toughness to go through it, then you'll get off and you'll realise, all right, that bit didn't work, that I shouldn't have said that word or that sentence. Then you refine it. Next thing you know, after 5 goes, now that joke works.
It must be hard for comedians in that sense. It's not like Led Zeppelin got on stage in front of 40,000 people and said, hey, we're going to work on this song.
We're going to jam.
We're going to jam, and you guys just sit there.
Yeah. That's what it's like.
That's what you have to do, because is it more like that you can't really find the way of the delivery, the intonation, the joke, the punchline without an audience? You can't really do it in front of a mirror.
No, you don't. It's so weird. I've been doing this for 20 years. You'd think I'd know. I'm like, yeah, that's funny, that'll work. Then you do it. It's like, how did that not work? It's amazing. Then I remember one I had sitting in a notepad for ages, years, that I just never tried because I was like, it's a bit confusing, whatever. Then one day I just threw it out there and it went amazing. And to this day, it's probably one of my best jokes. And then there'll be ones where you think of it on the way in the car. I did that when I was working up material for the show I'm touring at the moment. I had all this stuff written down that I'd worked on for days. The one thing I thought of in the car, that goes the best.
How do you record that? So same thing for me. I'm at the gym, you're on the bike, you have the greatest idea. You're like, how do you not disturb what you're doing to capture that thought? Yeah,
it's, you can't literally record yourself and listen to it back, but I think comedians tend to have a good, because you just know the joke in your head so well. Occasionally, I forgot that bit or whatever. But especially leading up to the Comedy Festival of Melbourne, we help each other so much. Like, someone will go on stage and they'll get off and go, "Did you hear that bit? Did that bit work?" And I'll go, "That one didn't work. Maybe try this." Like, there's a lot of camaraderie. And that's where I'm jealous of Los Angeles and stuff, because that's where they have, the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory stuff have like 3 shows a night. So I've been there with a friend of mine, Dov Davidoff, amazing comedian who lives in New York now, but he was in LA at the time. And I was witnessing the same process I do with my comic friends when we're trying out new jokes. He got off stage and he said, "That one about the bird didn't work." And they said, "Why don't you try this?" So he said, "Oh yeah, that might work." And he goes, "Should we go to the Laugh Factory and try it?" So he went and tried it again, and then again, and got it in that night. He had it worked out. Whereas at home, I have to wait till next week. Like, there's just not as many gigs as there is. So I think, they can get good so quick.
And you that's scrap a joke if it doesn't work?
That's probably why I sort of got good or recognized quickly, because I think I was very good at editing and scrapping something if it didn't work, whereas a lot of the other comics that were starting at the same time as me I remember one guy finishing on a joke that wouldn't ever really get anything, and then the next time would finish on it again and again. I'm like, why do you keep finishing on that? Because they just have in their head, "Oh, that's my closing joke." It's like, but it's not getting anything. I think I was very good at, "That's not working, get rid of it. That's not working, get rid of it."
But what if it could be the audience as well? Like, maybe like if you're in New York, you're in San Francisco or Texas. These are all different audiences, and that joke might kill in Texas and die in another. So how do you determine, like, was the joke shit or was the audience shit?
There's a rule, sort of a universal rule among comics. You got to try it in 4 different venues before you sign off on it being part of my set. And it's almost, this obviously can't be true because it's spiritual, but there's almost a rule of second night blues for a joke. If you try a new joke and it goes great, you're so excited. You can't wait to do it. The next night you do it, always gets nothing. And you're like, what did I do different? It just happens. It's so frustrating. But yeah, it's definitely trying it in different clubs. And then, you start to develop ones where, like, especially when I did the mining camps, like I did a whole festival show once about my mum and dad. And basically I know those jokes, if it's a room full of just men, for some reason, they don't work. They just don't. So I've got ones that, and obviously you have to find that out the hard way. So I obviously did it once and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but this normally works. So there's definitely jokes that work in certain areas and for certain, demographics of crowds, but there's no way to just pick that on a piece of paper and go, yeah, that one won't work. That you've got to try it and realize for yourself.
Are you able to, like, walk into these? You're saying in Melbourne you can go to these kind of where you can get your reps in. What I saw at the Comedy Store is, like, pretty much the bigger names could just come in and bump people out of the way. Do you have the, I don't want to look at that way. Do you have that power, the ability to say, I'm going in and I'm bumping this and I'm going to try to, work something out right now?
That it doesn't really happen that much in Australia. I mean, they'll always like call ahead and stuff. Like the Comics Lounge in Melbourne, for Tuesday night, if I say, can I get on this Tuesday? I'll always get on, but it's not because, hey, I'm coming in, they'll let anyone that's sort of, it's a loyalty thing really rather than a star power thing. But there's definitely some, I know Jim Owen now and then. I got bumped in my early days because Jim Owen was coming on a Tuesday night to try 40 minutes of new stuff.
Jim Owen's the very outspoken Australian.
No. That's Jim Jeffries.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Jim Owen's an Irish guy who lives in Australia, and he was just massive. He was one of my heroes as well when I first started. He had a sketch show as well, and very relatable stuff and observational. But his technique is he has a set list, and he gives it to someone in the front row and just has them call out one of them at random. And then he'll go, oh, yeah, and he'll just say it. And if it goes well, he'll go, give that one a tick. And then he keeps going and go, cross that one off. So, and I think that's almost, as much as that looks like, oh, that's a fun way, it's a defense mechanism, because then you're getting a laugh even if it goes shit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you get up there with a piece of paper, it's already telling the audience, I'm not taking this serious. This is just mucking. So you can sort of do it in that way. I've never done it in that way.
I saw Bill Burr do it.
Yeah,
I saw Bill Burr do it.
A lot of them will do it when they're trying out stuff.
He came in the Comedy Store one of the nights, and he just came up with a piece of paper with I guess 3 jokes, and he even said to the crowd, he's like, I'm just going to try these 3. There's no segues. Yeah. I'm just trying them. And he did 3 and just walked off. That was it.
But that's sort of, that's a sign of someone who's, amazing at what they do and a professional, because he's like, if I was in that situation, like, I could do these, but I've just got to read them out. I'm like, I'll wait till I've got them all ready. He's like, no, I'm just going in there. That's really like having the balls to just use the audience. This is me coming in and just, like you said, getting reps in, getting out. Because you leave and you've now got information that serves your show. So it takes sort of more balls to do that than to do your show that's ready in front of 1,000 people.
This Australian comedy,
200 people in my case.
You have bigger venues there as well. I mean, obviously, there must be comedians selling out stadiums in Australia, I'm assuming.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like those people I mentioned, and Carl Barron. Carl Barron's a guy who, that's all he does is just sell out shows all around Australia, and doesn't really. I think he would just do practice nights, but doesn't really do the clubs and that. I mean, did at some stage, but gotten to that point where that's all he has to do. And there's a group now that I'm friends with, Sushi Mango, who are a trio who just again from online stuff, like through COVID they had lots of online videos of taking the piss out of Italian culture and stuff, and they're selling out Rod Laver Arena, and now they're going to America. Arena. They're doing they're selling out in America.
10,000 type of.
Yeah, I just did a spot on a show that had Sushi Mango and friends, so it was them and 5 other comics at the Sydney Opera House.
How many people?
Which is I don't know. I think that's up there, 10,000 about. Yeah.
This Australian comedy style, I mean, it's a bit different than obviously British. British can be very dry. I mean, Australia still has that way where it's to the point, but you got to have some intelligence to grab the joke. Do you think the fact that Americans don't, grasp different material outside of their own country is because they're just idiots?
Possibly. You said it, so I'll go along with it. But yeah,
well, Canadians do. I mean, it's
call me. Are you Canadian?
I'm Canadian.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay. So we can both hang shit on Americans then.
So we have that dry humor as well in Canada. Yeah. So that kind of carries over, and then American humor is obviously there's great comedians there.
I do feel like Americans, they are very confined to their shell of America in that when if they do a show here, they'll use their own terminology and sort of,
not change it up for the crowd.
Yeah, and in a funny way, make observations on our terminology and stuff. But for example, when I did I think it's a 5 or 10 minute spot in New York at the Comedy Cellar through Amy Schumer, who I've met, and she has hooked me up a couple of times with a spot at the Comedy Cellar on a Saturday night, and I had one joke where I would normally say it's about my mum getting angry that you're not coming for dinner on time. And there was something about mobile phone. Then I had to say cling wrap in the fridge, and then, or it's going in the bin. Had to change that to cell phone, aluminum foil.
Yes.
In the refrigerator, or it's going in the trash. And I only thought of that as I'm saying it. So as I'm coming up this joke, I'm changing words in my head because, I mean, these days, this is a while ago, but these days maybe, because with Netflix and that we see a lot of British shows, whatever. But I do think if you say that, most of the audience is going, what's he talking about? Because it's not a word they recognise. Whereas I think in Australia, because we've seen American TV shows, we've seen English, when there's a word that we don't use, we know what they mean though.
When they come over there, it transfers easy.
I think it's because American shows are the ones that everyone watches,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily reciprocated.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that earlier. I was living in Australia for a year, so I started to get into, this would have been 2008, so I was getting in like Summer Heights High.
Oh, yeah.
Like this, I thought this was absolutely
Yeah.
hilarious. I brought that back home to Canada and showed people, and anyone that watched it, it blew up. And obviously he did all his other shows over there.
Yeah.
Someone else I've been watching recently is Aunty Donna.
Oh yeah,
I think they're very interesting. It's like a Monty Python.
Yeah.
The comedy starts off G and progressively becomes rated R by the end of the sketch.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment of what they're doing?
Definitely, yeah. It's basically anything goes. But so that's the thing with that sort of style, that can go either way. It can, if anything goes, it can just be, oh well, that's just controversial for the sake of controversial, just crazy for the sake of crazy. But if there's absolute cleverness underlying it, then it's brilliant.
I think
and that's what Aunty Donna are.
I think it's very well planned. It looks crazy, but I think they're putting that together quite strategically.
They're hard work. I'm friends with those guys, and they're hard-working guys, and they definitely put in the work that results in what you see. Yeah, and they're like I said about Sushi Manga, they're touring America and that as well, and England, and getting lots of theatre crowds too. So
how tight is that comedian community in Australia? You guys are pretty well. Is there the WhatsApp group chat of all you guys in it?
No, but I find that everywhere though, like especially in Australia, very tight community. Comedians just help each other out. But then when I was in LA, I remember talking to someone, I think it was Brian Callen, and you're sort of just having a chat. Nice guy. Once you drop that, we're comics in Australia, the conversation changes because, we're the same, You're
not a competitor now.
No, well, you're not a fan. You're like, we just have been through the trenches. We've been through, it's like meeting someone else who is, in the army.
No, I get it, yeah. They know like what you've been through to even get to that point.
Yeah, and you talk the same language, and you just you're on our side, sort of thing.
There's always that struggle. Probably the only major comedian that didn't probably have that struggle is Chappelle. I mean, he blew up at 19.
Yeah.
Who are your kind of comedians today? Who do you think are like the guys killing it out there right now?
Bill Burr's one of mine. Like I said, just almost a class act in that he's just like doing it his way. And it's just like, have to admire that, And the other ones that are killing it, I mean, Dave Chappelle has always been a massive, I was about to say massive fan of mine. I've been a massive fan of his. But people, it's getting different in that the YouTube scene and TikTok and that, people are, like the Sushi Mango guys, they're massive. And it was from essentially Instagram and TikTok. So there's a whole different avenue now.
This landscape
to get there.
To be able to get in, and open those doors. I follow a couple Canadians that do similar sketch comedy on Instagram, which it's a great platform because then it brings those fans to the shows.
Yeah.
And it actually is coming to Australia. I saw there's a guy named Nimanaz.
Okay.
He's a Canadian guy. I think he's on his way to Australia to tour now. Right. And on Instagram, he's probably 300,000-400,000. Yeah. They have a little group of guys over in Canada, like 3 or 4 of them, and they all do their own stuff, but they all overlap and all collaborate, and that's kind of how they grow together. It's a smart way to go about it.
But what's the big craze at the moment is the crowd work. So there's a kid, I shouldn't say kid, but a guy I am friends with, Luke Kidgel, who's an Australian who has gone massive, just from, not just from, he's a working comedian, but he started putting lots of videos up on TikTok and Instagram of parts of his set where he talks to the crowd and asks them questions, and something he's very good at it, something funny always comes out of it. But it's also the way he films it, I just think is perfect. It's like, and he puts the subtitles up, and it's just like, it looks cool.
So
and
he's kind of condensing it into the short form.
So he'll do an hour show and maybe just, and I think I saw him say somewhere that he just started doing that because it's a way of promoting yourself without burning your material. Yeah. Because you're talking to the crowd, it's just something that's only going to happen that night. And now that's become Matt Rife. Matt Rife does the same thing a lot. He's become massive. And I think I even saw him say it was there was one video where it was him talking to the crowd. Oh, what was it? I can't remember exactly what it was about. Something about a lady.
Lion's mane's not working. So.
Yeah, I'm getting there. It was a lady who was celebrating her husband being dead or something in the crowd. Yeah, it was something like that. If you Google that, I reckon you'll get to it.
Yeah.
And he said, he was just getting over it, like, do I even post this? Like, no one's watching him. Someone said, well, you edited it. You may as well do it, post it. Goes nuts. Then it's like, what else has he got? He's got, and now he's I think he just did Radio City Hall the other night, and he just came to Australia. And, people say, like, can you get jealous of people that have done that? So, they put things out. It's like, no, like, they've all done the work. If you got the balls to get up there and do it, even putting yourself out there on video, then you've got my blessing. Like, you deserve whatever.
So a lot of the comedians now are doing this crowd work style just to use for the short.
Yeah, and a lot of old school comedians, and I guess you can put me in that category, but I'm fine with it. Don't like it. Like, I personally, I would rather, and it's because I'm a comedian. I'm not into I do the crowd work stuff, but I'm not into watching it as much, because I'd rather see what you've come up with, what you've written. Mm-hmm. That shows me your style of humour, your skills as a comedian, your craft. Talking to the crowd is a skill in its own, and some people are definitely way better at it than
it's
others.
almost like equivalent to freestyle, I guess, a rap. Like, you have to be so quick off the top of your head and to hold the crowd there as well.
But the reason it's annoying people is you're getting people now, comics, who probably aren't at the level yet they should even be trying to talk to the crowd. Get your act together first. And I remember at the Edinburgh Fringe, there was the story of an old school comic going into the club, and there's just tripods lined up of kids about to film themselves, and he just knocked them all because when they got the tripod on them, they get up there and all it is, hey, so are you like, they're just trying to force something out of the crowd. And I've seen people like steer away from the naturalness of comedy, like basically saying, oh, and is this your husband? And she goes, no, that's my dad. And he's like, oh, no. It's like, you could tell that wasn't.
They set that up.
Yeah, like he knew that was her dad, but he just said that so it'd get a crazy reaction. Gotcha. So, obviously when people see something that's working for some who are really good at it, they're gonna try it. But I think put the groundwork in first to get good at the craft of stand-up.
Who knows if they stage
and then
that,
that'll come naturally,
crazy lady storm stage, and you find out later it's like his best friend. Just to get some views on that stuff as well. When you just went on tour last year, when you're on tour, I've always wondered this, even for singers or any type of artist and a comedian, your content's always going to be new to every crowd, but eventually don't you burn yourself out? Like, fuck, I got to go say this again tonight.
Yeah, it can get to that point where, and you'll find yourself, you might ruin your jokes because you try and do it in a slightly different way. And you're like, just stick with
just to appease yourself.
Yeah.
You're like,
you're entertaining yourself. It's like, no. So that's when you got to look at it. These people have paid money. They've organised babysitters. They've driven in, whatever. Give them the show that you've come up with. And once you start doing that, and, I have a section in my show where I talk to the crowd and ask people, and that's a highlight, exciting for me, because that's when I got to be on my toes. I don't know what's coming. But the showman comes out in you when you're feeling like that, like, oh, I'm saying this again. But the thing is, I'm at the point where I don't have to be nervous because, I've gone through all the hard yards of trying to come up with these jokes. Now I get to just say them comfortably because I know they work. So, you got to switch that part off that's burning you out a bit.
By the end of that tour, are you almost on autopilot?
Yeah. My last show before this one, because this is when the TV show was starting. I did the TV show, so I did a tour after that. And then I put some videos from the TV show, like the rose one we talked about, the magic washing basket, online, and that's when it blew up even more. So then I toured again because I had all new people, and then I went to London. Then I basically toured it again because there's people just saying, oh, we missed out the first time. So I was doing like encore shows. And by the end of that, I could have like had someone punching me in the face on stage and all the words still would have come out. I knew it that well. Like proof is the last tour I did, I got really sick and I did like 4 Brisbane shows in a row where I was like, had a chest infection. I couldn't even think. Like if you got me to write a sentence, I wouldn't get to the end of it, but I'd get on stage and do the whole show.
And then, so you're headlining your show, your tour, and then do you have people kind of, how many comedians are before you, or is it just you?
On my tour, it's just me.
Just you.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of rare that most people will have an opening act or a support act or a couple. I used to do that, but I just made it really self-contained so that I can just go on my own terms. And I show a lot of, at the start I show like a 5-minute highlight reel video that's always got a new bit at the start. So there's a new video at the start of my show, which is a rap song that no one has seen. It's not online. So that's a treat for the audience. Then it goes into highlights. And that's essentially my opening act because that warms them up. And then that brings me on.
And it allows any parents there to leave the show now.
Yeah.
They're not ready for this.
But it's also a good indicator, because there's obviously certain parts of that video that get the big laugh, whatever. But then I remember in Edinburgh, a Sunday show is always a bit more low key because Sunday no one's really drinking, hungover, whatever. And when you're standing back there and that video's on and that's not getting anything, and you're just like, oh, you're kidding me. You've got to go out there and try and liven them up.
In silence.
Yeah. But, so what's good for me is doing that. Like, so when I go home now, I purposely held off doing my shows in Victoria, which is the state I live in. So I do all the country towns, sort of around where I grew up. And because it's just me, I just put like a bag in the car, my laptop that has the videos. I drive there. I set up with the tech guy there. I do it. I drive home. Like it's so easy.
How long were your sets? Like these tour sets, are they 45 minutes? They're an hour?
It's an hour, probably an hour and 10. Okay. If talking to the crowd, it goes a bit longer. Then afterwards, I'll do a meet and greet, or sometimes I sell some
merch,
stupid books, merch that I made.
So when you go after that tour, and now you're here, you're in Phuket, you're training. Then what's next for you? I mean, now you're writing a whole new set, and you're planning for another tour.
So last time I was here, I wrote. Yeah, a lot of the jokes that are in the show I'm touring now, I wrote in Thailand while I was here. Before that, I'd have like little notes in my phone of joke ideas and stuff. And then you look at them, try and figure out what that means. You got written there, Tim Tams. Why did I write that? And then I'll sort of work them out. But usually, I was originally always coming for the TV show when we'd be writing. And then on the TV show, there was about 6 other friends that I write with. We'd all like basically put a page just of random note ideas. Could this be a sketch? And I'd sort of get those, pick them. I'd start writing the sketches that we know are absolutely going to be in. And I'd be doing that in Thailand in between some fitness classes. This time around, because the TV show isn't happening anymore, I'm basically going to try and make my own pilot essentially of a series. So
from planning that from Thailand.
I've been writing it here, and I literally finished the script last night, and it's 2 parts. So a pilot, for anyone who doesn't know, is just like the first episode of a series, and it's like a series with a story.
So not a sketch
show.
Not
a sketch show, yeah. It's a series that's a narrative, so there's characters that it's ongoing.
And it's comedy.
It's comedy.
So it's not like the Adam Sandler direction.
So, so I've been working on that here, and this is the first time I've worked on something like that here, like a full script. So that's been really exciting. So I've had like
do you have any teasers for that?
little index cards on my wall in my hotel room. That
are you kind of still holding it in? You haven't released anything to the public of explaining what's
No,
coming?
no, not at all.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, it's called Uncancelled. It's I play a publicist who has a lot of famous clients, and you know the TikTok car guy who goes up to people who have fancy cars and says, "What do you do for a living?" Yeah. It starts with him, and he comes to me, and I give a lecture on how you got to have a publicist because you can get cancelled so easily if you do this. This could happen. This could happen, and then I say something that gets me cancelled. So essentially, then the rest of the series is me helping minor celebrities who have been wrongfully cancelled, getting them uncancelled. But we are the dodgiest bunch of
so at least you
people.
have unlimited content because every persona becomes a new episode of whoever that celebrity
essentially, yeah. So it's the first time I've really written something like that where you're writing for different characters as well.
What's that process? You're creating the pilot. Now you eventually have to pitch that.
So the reason that's normally what you would do. The reason I'm doing it is during COVID lockdown, I wrote a series idea. I wrote another pilot, and I wrote an animation pilot just in case we were never allowed in the same room again.
There you go.
And here's me thinking, I've done 4 TV shows in Australia, 4 series. A lot of the videos from my shows go viral. I'll tell Netflix and Stan's another one to show all these like streaming services. I've got this series idea, and none of them were interested in meeting with me. And I'm like, really? I can't even get this. I said, this is probably bad time. We've got a full slate so I'm like, what do you do? And we've done that before where we've made like a little teaser of something I wanted to make, and you send it to, the networks, and they all say, yeah, it's great. Give us more. They never want to take a chance on something unless they've seen proof that it absolutely works. This is in Australia I'm talking about, different in America, I think. And so this time I thought, I'm not doing that anymore because it's such a draining process, such a waste of time. So I did all those shows last year and just put money aside to fund this thing myself. So we're going to put it online and basically charge $2 to watch 2 episodes. And if you do that, then you're helping us fund the rest of the series. So basically, we have purposely held off. People do Kickstarter and GoFundMe to say, oh, we want to make this movie, help us. We're sort of doing a different version of that where I'll make it now, then you can pay to watch it if you want.
Where would they find that then?
It'll probably just be on YouTube, and I'll be blasting it all over my page.
Premium YouTube content. I think do they have that now?
Well, you can just rent or buy something on YouTube, yeah. Okay. But we will figure that out. And because on my Facebook we've got like I think 1,020,000 something followers now, and we never used it to fund something or to
and I mean that can get traction to a network coming for your streaming.
Well, that's
service.
the thing too. Now, if it goes well, there's proof. What more do you want? It's sitting there.
And wouldn't they even notice that even from like a short or a reel or even like a snippet of content, like wow, this just got 30 million views. Maybe there's something there.
That's what I thought, but no, that's not enough. Yeah. So I'm like, let's just do it ourselves because, odds are it might not come off, but my thing is I need to know that I've tried it this way. Louis C.K. does a similar thing with his series.
I think he's the greatest.
Yeah, Louis, he did his own thing. You watch that on his website. That's not on the network.
He's the only like person I've ever paid for.
Yeah.
Because it's I think he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, I think Louis C.K. I mean, I've grown up in comedy. I love it. I just think when you watch his specials, like his delivery, his timing, his build-up, like I don't think anyone else today is doing it better. I mean,
he's amazing.
Except for yourself.
No.
But I saw what he's doing.
Happy to bow down to Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. He comes out and then he'll release, like he did the show in Boston, and then he releases it on his website. And you get an email. I'm like, yeah, I'll give you $10.
Yeah, I get the same ones. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? And it's I think it's worth. I mean, at the end of it, it's $10.
Yeah. And so he's sort of been an inspiration behind that, finding a new avenue, because why are we like, begging networks and making these pictures that then, these pictures and videos, they take time and money and effort, and then just sort of nothing comes of it. And it's like, what more proof do you need that we can make something that, gets views? So I was just like, if we do this and it works, then we've sort of changed the game for ourselves. Then we can just keep doing it like this.
Yeah, but
and
now
we're
you
sort
can
of
sell it at a higher value.
We become our own network sort of thing.
Like
yeah.
if those networks come back, it's kind of like you went and approached them when the stock was worth 0.
Mm-hmm.
You show up, the stock's worth 100. Now it's a bidding war.
Because when I was doing the sketch shows, I was always teamed with another production company and the network as a production company, essentially. Because, we just don't have the skills or the equipment or the know-how. If we do this ourselves and they come, hey, do you want to do this with us? It's like, no, you can just pay us to do it because we already know how to do it. We've done it. So that's where we want to basically be our own production company that doesn't have to, work.
When you say we, is this like your production team?
So, yeah. So Max Price is someone I work
with. The reoccurring characters on your sketches as well. Like, are you guys all going to be working together on this show?
Yeah. So you just sort of find your group of friends that you love working with, and that's who that'll be. When I say we, that's who I mean.
Do they come out here as well, or this is kind of your thing?
No, this is sort of my thing. I tend to. That's why I don't really post too much about where I am, because I don't want people to.
Do they mess with you? Like, oh, you're going to Thailand.
People have always questioned. Like, my parents have said, always assumed I had a girlfriend over here or something. Yeah. It's like I haven't left my room in like the last month because I work harder here than I do at home. But it was when I made some. It was funny actually. So I made a couple of videos, basically at Tiger Muay Thai when I was first training there. Purely for fun, and it was basically to entertain a mate of mine back home, because I just said it as a joke. I should do my own. They had the BBQ Beatdown. I said, and Embedded's filming me, and he goes, oh, you should do that. So I actually did it, and this is when I'm supposed to be writing the TV show, and I made a parody of the UFC Embedded series that follows a fighter around, pretending it was me leading up to the BBQ Beatdown, and the producer, Marianne Cowell, obviously sees it posted, and because she's a producer, she knows how much work goes into a video like that and editing. She goes, yeah, that video was great, it was funny. Are you writing the show though? Because that took some time. But when I did that video, I did it with Joe Boobier. I don't know if you know Joe. So I used him as my fake opponent, and Jeff Sinclair.
Yeah. Oh, but this would have been a while ago. Then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I'm mentioning Jeff for a reason.
Yeah.
That'll come up in a second. So he was doing the video stuff for Tiger, videography, and Joey, who you probably know, worked at Tiger at the time.
Yep.
She said, "Oh, Jeff will help you film it if you want a camera." That's when I met Jeff, and so I met Joe. It was like a drunken night. I remember the reggae bar across from Tiger, and he and I were both sort of flirting with the same girl, and that's how we became friends, because we sort of realised, we're both trying to chat up this girl. And then I remember I got her first margarita. She like gave me a kiss, not a crazy kiss, but a kiss, and I'm like, I've won this one. And then 10 minutes later, look, he's just fully making out with her the rest of the night. Now, here's the twist on that story. That girl then became my fiance, so you can see how picky I am.
Hey, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna one that up.
Not my fiance anymore, which shows how smart she is. So the next day when I saw Joe at a class, we sort of chatted about it. I'm like, actually, he's sort of funny. We made this video. And I'll post it again when this is on, because it was just embedded, and that's I didn't know Woody and George Hickman and them that well, but they saw this video, and it's sort of because it featured Tiger Muay Thai a lot and stuff, and then Tiger loved it, so it was like a free ad. So then next time, that's why I kept coming. They'd like get discount on training if I make another video and stuff. So. This guy that Jeff knows, Gavin Rivera, works for the UFC when it's, I don't know what you call it, but whenever it's not in America, if it's Australia, New Zealand, He's the media guy. He's recently retired from that job, but he contacts Jeff and says, "Who's the guy in that video you guys made?" And then so Jeff puts him in contact with me, and he got me to do a video for the UFC, the one in Perth. I did like a things never said by people watching UFC, and we had Mark Hunt in it and a couple of others. And then I was in Vegas on my own anyway, and I was going to the UFC, and it was the International Fight Week, and I saw Jeff post that he was going there, and I said, "Oh, I am too." So he happened to tell Gavin. Gavin contacts me. "Are you coming to the Vegas?" He goes, "We could do something with Izzy and Rob Whittaker. They're going to be there." And like I literally wrote a script on the plane on the way there from LA, so not long, and did a script with those two. Became friends with Izzy. Got to watch. So my payment was always a free ticket to the fight. That's all. So then I did like about 5 videos for the UFC, and always saw
I saw that. Now that you say that, I just saw that video actually. I forget what you were asking them. I remember it was like in the training by a ring.
Yeah, that was the battle of the badasses. Who's who's badder out of those two?
Yeah.
And then we did another one, Things Never Said by UFC Fighters. That was the Melbourne. That was probably the one that went the best, because we had so many people in it, Whittaker, and like they're such nice guys. I've always found that, especially when I've met, just fighters in general. I think for the uninitiated, I guess you'd say, fighters can get pigeonholed in the wrong pigeonhole, as in, oh, they're a bit savage or whatever. Fighters are the most respectful people I've met, I reckon, because if you go into a bar, there's a guy there with his new girlfriend, and everyone's sort of, everyone's a bit insecure, like, I could beat up that guy, whatever. A fighter doesn't have to be like that. So they're just like the most respectful. They've got no chip on their shoulder. They've got no reason to be puffing their chest out. They're just like the most respectful people I know. And that's why I've always said, I think I'm pretty secure as a male because I have no choice to admit that a lot of my best friends are females who can beat the shit out of me.
Exactly.
I'm friends with a lot of these fighters that are girls. And one time I was with Mike and Anirudh and Lynn we went to Patong to get a burger from Burger Me or something, whatever. And I just remember there was an argument or a fight in the street, like a scooter crash or something. And I remember sort of just stepping back and letting them go in front of me.
They'll handle it.
If shit goes down, come on, you guys, So chivalry isn't dead, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, that feeling, especially in Thailand, you see a lot of these professional fighters in the gym, and I think maybe the normies like us, of course, they're so nice. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What I mean, I'd like to see. Probably a lot of them, they don't even walk around with like bodyguards unless you're so big, like maybe a Conor McGregor, because you could get 50,000 people jumping on you.
Yeah, but it must be. I mean, it's a feeling I'll never know, but it must be a great feeling.
You're still blowing up in Australia. Do you plan to do international tours as well?
Well, I've done Edinburgh, London, and New Zealand. Annoyingly, I was supposed to do Canada just before COVID happened. I was like just planning it, just sorting visa stuff. And I was getting a lot of help from the Aunty Donna guys because they sort of put me onto a publicist who helped them find venues and stuff. And the plan was is because then I could advertise them on Facebook. And I was just going to do comedy clubs, but it was just me. Because that's the good thing in Facebook. You can see where your fans and views are from. So I could if I was to do America, Texas is where I've got the most people that would probably come to a show. And Canada, Toronto and stuff.
Well, so that's our only city.
Yeah. So I was going to do Canada in the hope that it had pissed the Americans off, and they'd say, "Why aren't you coming to America?" And I'd be like, "Well, where do you want me to come?"
Building up.
Yeah.
Building up that
momentum.
So
that's still on the cards. But I sort of after COVID, it was just like, all right, let's just get our feet back a bit first and get something going.
Yeah, we're
still treading water a little bit.
Well, right before we kind of we probably went over an hour, but I'm good. Sometimes most of the guests I bring on, it's like I have questions more to pick. Today was kind of for me. I'm like I would like the opportunity to pick a comedian's mind on process and kind of see stuff from behind the scenes and knowing how to ask those questions. Nothing pre-planned. I like to kind of just. You have to go with the flow on the podcast. You could have 50 questions in your head, and like you could be talking about something. You can't just slide it in there. But to kind of bring it back to Thailand and understanding like your routine, so you can tell your producer on camera, we'll clip this to show her. Walk us through like your daily routine. Typically, what are you doing here? Not just from the writing process, but from actually living here. I guess it's kind of like travel tourism or I don't want to say fitness tourism, I guess is a better way to explain it.
Definitely. Yeah, because I definitely... I come here and I leave. Every time I leave here, if I've come for the fitness purpose, it's like, this is how I should be feeling all the time. Like, this is, it's a bit cliche, the best version of myself. That's how I always leave after I've come here for a month or more. So my routine when I'm here is I'm always writing something because I use the time here, so it's not a holiday, because if it's a holiday, I want it to be a holiday where I'm not training or anything, just relaxing. So I'll definitely do a fitness class in the morning, come back, usually jump in the pool at the hotel for a bit, and then start writing whatever I'm working on. And then that I'll do like a private Muay Thai at 5 p.m. usually with Sawat, who's a trainer at Tiger. I've got to the point where I'd be happy to just do the fitness classes, but every time I swear I've been like 100 meters away when I first arrived, and Sawat will turn because he senses me and just goes, "Troy, my friend." I'm like, all right, guess I'm doing Muay Thai, because my heart just won't say I'm not going to do Muay Thai this time. And it's great fun when I do it. So I normally do that at 5 o'clock. So I try and work pretty much through the whole day.
That whole, I guess you're done probably at 8, 9, and you're working right till 5 almost. Obviously lunch and whatnot here.
The stage where it becomes weird, and especially more so this time when I'm writing a script that's a story with characters where I need to solve problems of, should this happen here, and then what if this happens? I'll be doing like fitness class or Muay Thai, and that's still going through my head. Fitness class is okay because you can think of stuff, but I'm almost at the point, because I haven't had the lion mane. I'm like, can I just run to my phone and put this in as a note because I'm going to forget it? But the worst is like doing Muay Thai and doing combinations when you're thinking of jokes or script stuff in your head. But it's also a good thing because that means you're in the flow of it. You got to let it take over your brain a little bit, which is hard because the downside of that is because I've come so often, I've made a lot of friends here, and when you're back, they all want to catch up. Oh, we're going here, we're going there, and I feel so bad when I go, I've got to stay and do this. And they're like, oh, you never. It's like, well, I'm sort of not here for that. So basically, I try and set some time aside. So as I said, I finished this script last night. This next 2 weeks is basically focused more on training. So and I did this like a couple of days last week. I trained, then I went and sort of sat by the pool for a bit, had an ice bath, a sauna, trained again and felt awesome. It's like,
do you feel more creative here because you're, releasing so much energy and the mind can open up a bit? And
just being in a routine, it's so hard, especially touring and stuff, to get in a routine. And you see so many posts these days of the 5 a.m. club and get up at this time. Yeah, but sometimes I'm getting home at 1 because I'm doing a shit gig to work out some shit jokes. Like, we can't all be in that routine. And I find here, when I can be in a routine, and that's the other thing too, like I've just come off a year of going out every night and trying jokes at a club. I'd rather stay home half the time, but you've got to do it. Come back at get home at midnight. And then on the tour, wasn't doing the tour every night, obviously, but you're out. So then when I get here and I can go to bed at 8 o'clock, I'm like, this is heaven. But I've got people, hey, you want to come out to this Latin dancing night or this whatever? I'm like, no, I'm loving going to bed every night at 8 o'clock. So it's a bit of it can be a catch-22. But if you find the balance, like this week, I'll dedicate it a bit more to fitness and holiday mode, if you will. And that's sort of what I feel like I need right now. But definitely, and also what's hard when you go back is, here you go sit at a restaurant, your food comes pretty quick. Yeah, got people that do your washing for you. People clean your room.
Thailand's just very efficient to get the stuff that you have to do every day anyways. I mean, besides maybe someone to brush your teeth.
That's the thing.
That's the next thing.
Everything's taken care of.
But everything's quick, fast. I mean.
And it hits you hard when you get home and you see a pile of clothes. You go, oh, I have to take care of that.
Or wherever you need to go, there's always that transportation or car parking. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what that life's like anymore, but.
The scooter is amazing. And that's, again, back on the unpretentiousness that I love of Thailand. You start to get so annoyed by things when you get home that don't reflect that. Because here you come out, you might park your bike at 7-Eleven or something. If you're in there for a bit, you come out, someone's moved your bike because it was in the way. Oh, that's okay, you get on it. It's just like logic. Well, then at home you'll park somewhere and you get a parking ticket. It's like, why can't I park there? Oh, you're not allowed to. Why not? There's no reason. It's like, this doesn't make sense. You've really craved the Thai life of logic. And everything making sense. Here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I avoid every time I go back home, things get a bit worse or more strict, and it's hard. For me, the number one thing is I'm going back home this summer, and I even called my dad. I gave him install instructions for the bum gun. Oh. I'm not coming home this time until that thing's installed.
Amazing. Yeah, my mate just moved into a house the other day, and I saw him post that he's got one at his house, and he doesn't realize, and I was like, mate. Because he's going, am I really going to use this thing? I'm like, yes, you are. It is amazing. You won't go
anywhere without it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so there's a lot of luxuries you'll miss, especially when you leave here as well.
Definitely.
Okay, just before we wrap it up, we probably hit an hour and a half, but that's all right.
Nice.
We'll chop this all up into some cool clips. You can check that out. I'm going to kick it back to this big camera here. If you can stare into the souls of your fans and let them know and your new fans where they can find you on social media. We'll put all links in the description.
Oh, beautiful. Well. Yeah, if you want to see any of my videos at all, Facebook, Kinne, Kinne, and my Instagram is just at Troy Kinne. And again, Kinne. It's a very confusing surname. I'm sorry about that. And that's where I'll also put all my touring dates, which are coming up starting March, basically. I'll be touring on and off for the rest of the year with my show Made Wrong, all about me and what's wrong with me. Make yourself feel better.
It's going to be a long show now. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks a lot, Troy, for joining the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know what you thought in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, grab some lion's mane. It's good for your brain. We're not selling that other podcast sugar water stuff. This is the real deal. Okay, and we're out. Thanks, guys.